Hello and welcome to this multimedia series on the environment on CNC3. I'm Ira Mathur. This week we're talking bottle recycling. But first, here are some of your comments in the wake of the flooding disaster we recently experienced, sent to cleaning up the mess at guardian.co.tt. Grant Adams from Kansas, who's been following our series on the internet, offers some solutions for flooding, which I quote to you, alongside photos sent in from Kavita Kisoon of Kuva, as well as some of CNC3's video. Mr. Adams' solution for flooding include the following: enforce reforestation laws, install storage systems areas to slow and impound water, create terracing and depressions on slopes to slow down gushing water, enforce anti-dumping laws which are grossly disrespected, draft and enact regulations regarding land use and development, clearly demarcate land boundaries for agriculture, dwellings, industrial activity, as well as the limits of urbanization. Review building codes, including areas for vegetation in development and construction. Create and enforce laws for the disposal of all waste resulting from living, manufacturing, and energy production. This requires a regular and professional collection of garbage and recycling, even if there's a monthly charge to citizens and companies. And finally, create a vibrant group of environment officers dedicated to education, advising, and guiding citizens on environmental laws and charged with policing the environment. All excellent ideas. We thank him. Grant concludes that Trini's disrespect for the environment means that these solutions may have to be forced down the throats of many people. It takes courage and strong will to serve the people properly and fairly. Well said. As this week's Guardian guest columnist Dev Gajadhar from Carib Glass put it, someone's garbage is someone's treasure. When we began this series, we had no idea that glass had been recycled in Trinidad since the 1940s. If you've been following us, you know that by now that some 50 million plastic bottles find their way into our dumps every month, and 10 million glass bottles. This could be our treasure. Instead, it's becoming an embarrassment and a health and environmental hazard. Currently, all our waste goes into our overflowing landfill sites at Beetham, Forest Park, Arima, and Studley Park in Tobago. The landfill sites are filled to capacity despite the continued bulldozing of waste. There's no waste separation except for a few citizens' communities, housing developments, hotels, and companies who separate. Glass container recycling is a valuable recyclable material, and glass containers are 100% recyclable. Carib Glass was the first company in Trinidad and Tobago to receive the EMA's water pollution permit. The company has developed an extensive bottle recycling program. My guests today are Roger Mew, the managing director of Carib Glass, and Dev Gajadhar, the logistics manager of Carib Glass also. Gentlemen, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
Roger, let me start off with you. When did Carib Glass get involved in recycling, and why?
Well, we have been involved in recycling since the inception of Carib Glass. We were established back in 1948, as you pointed out in your clip there. We've been in it for a long time. It is an essential part of our process. We cannot make new glass bottles unless we are able to collect old glass bottles. Every new glass bottle, we are talking 45 to 50% of every new bottle is an old bottle. So cullet, what we call recycled glass, is an essential part of the manufacturing process of glass. So we have a very high demand for recycled glass in order for us to go about our business of making new glass.
How much of your recycled, or how much of your glass is imported?
Well, as you can see from those statistics there that you mentioned, approximately 10 million bottles are going into the dumps every month. Carib Glass will make over 20 million bottles of glass every month, of which about 25% of that is actually exported. Some of it is collected here in Trinidad, both through our recycling efforts, and some are also imported. We have a policy, of course, that we would prefer to collect all our glass in Trinidad as our first stop. But since we have not been able to do so, we go to the Caribbean, our regional partners, where we do a lot of business with Barbados, and we also with Jamaica, and also with Dominica, and some of the other islands.
Clearly, they're doing a better job than us. Dave, let me come to you as the logistics manager at Carib Glass. How is this recycling done? How is it sorted? How many people are employed in sorting out the glass right now in Carib?
First, let me thank you for having me on the program here. Well, at Carib Glass, what we do is we have a recycled glass department, and in terms of sorting the glass bottles, we bring them into the plant. And basically, we have two guys who just sorts the bottles out and separates them into clear, brown, and green, because our production is based on clear bottles, brown, and green, and that's essentially what we collect. So that the glass comes in, and we store it into our facilities at Champlain, and then we go through the process of sorting. They come in trucks, in which they can be just offloaded into our areas, in which we have different sections for different colors of bottles, or they can come in bags, and then we then sort them out. Sometimes we need to remove the caps, sometimes there are lids, there are little rings around the bottles. All of these things that we need to then remove, and then it goes into a process of crushing. It goes into what we call a glass recycling section, and then it all comes out good and then goes into the furnace.
Sounds excellent.
Yes.
Where do you get most of your glass, Roger, in the absence of recycling laws here? Do you get it from people sorting it and dropping it off, or do you get it from landfills?
Well, we get a significant amount, in fact, from one of our sister companies, the Carib Brewery. Because the Carib Brewery, the vast majority of their glass is in fact recycled glass. It's not one-way glass. When you purchase your Carib or your Stag or your Mackeson, you usually pay a deposit on those bottles. As a result of that deposit, people bring their bottles back to be washed and refilled. When they go through that process, after a process of wear and tear, the bottles can only be recycled a number of times in order to maintain the quality of the glass and the integrity of the product. Those bottles are then have to be dumped. And they in fact bring quite a significant amount of glass to Carib Glass. So not only are we getting the glass being reused to repack product, but when it is finished, it comes to Carib Glass. It does not in fact go to the landfills. The other part of the program is that we have set up with a number of recyclers who will be able to get some glass from the dumps, from the landfills. That is also an important source. And then the third and very important source, which we've been working very hard on, and I know Dave has been working very hard on that, is getting it from the public, what we call our campaign glass, where we pay cash for glass to bring the glass into Carib Glass.
Perhaps, Dave, you could tell us about this.
Right. Because of, let's say, lack of legislation, which we've talked, it's been highlighted a little bit before, we have decided that we would try to get it from, let's say, John Public, Jane Public, and we've decided to do a campaign where we would try to get across to the citizenry of our country. We came up with a campaign 2 years or so, 2.5 years ago, where we would pay cash for glass. And basically we highlighted it. We had across the media, it was on the radio, the newspapers, and what we are trying essentially is to pay you, give you an incentive for your waste. So whereas you're destroying it away before, we're going to say, okay, save your glass bottles and we'll pay you a cash for it. What we will do, you can bring it into Carib Glass, and we make it so easy for you is that we can come and get it at your household. In other words, then we come into your place and we collect your bottles and we bring it away and bring it into Carib Glass. And it's basically a cash for glass campaign where we're encouraging everybody to get involved with this campaign. Save your waste at your homes, you go to the beaches or whatever, you save your bottles and we would take it away and pay you something for it. We have seen it working in terms of schools, in terms of NGOs who can use it as a form of getting some revenue for whatever projects they have. And we've found that a lot of, a school in Diego Martin, for example, has to go to England this year for their pan site, and they decided to get involved. They saw the ad, and they contacted us and said, how can we get involved? And around Carnival time, they went around and they collected bottles, and they got a fair amount. And they're on their way, as far as I know, this August. And we have a number of different NGOs and organizations. Communities, for example, has gotten involved, and they can use this money back for developing their own communities and drainage, whatever it be. So we see this as a very, as we call it, the proverbial win-win situation.
I was just going to say that. Thank you, Dave.
Yeah.
We'll take a short break.
Yeah.
As you watch, I want to remind you to send in your comments and suggestions to cleaningupthemess@guardian.co.tt. This is an environmental special on CNC3. We'll be right back.